This is the story of two brothers who were at one time the undisputed kings of pornography in America. Their empire crumbled in 1991 when one of the brothers was murdered. Some say San Francisco, California, the city by the bay. Cable cars, the Golden Gate Bridge, and Alcatraz Prison, all sights of the landscape. But there's another side to this city, one born during the gold rush days when it was a busy seaport. Sexual commerce, a tradition that has lived on today because of the city's well-known tolerance. 2 divorces, 6 kids, numerous child support and custody battles, and developed an almost unquenchable appetite for drugs, alcohol, and sadomasochistic sex.
I was thinking that we could go snorkeling.
On February 21st, 1991, Artie faced another problem.
Thinking I don't have all the clothes I can buy. Just to go down and down.
Just after 10 p.m., as Artie and his girlfriend Julie were going to bed, an intruder broke through the front door of his home and opened fire.
Check.
911 emergency. I'm in the bedroom.
Julie ran to the closet and called police.
Outside the door. You hear shots? Artie. Somebody's shooting! Oh my God! Somebody's shooting!
By the time paramedics arrived, 45-year-old Artie Mitchell was dead on the bathroom floor with a fatal bullet wound to his head. When police arrived at the home,
His mental state, what was in his mind.
Artie had a blood alcohol level of 0.25, almost 3 times the legal limit.
If Art was not killed this way, Art would have died in his car and taken a lot of other people with him, or overdosed on something. It was inevitable that Art was not going to be around in this world for very long, I thought.
Defense attorneys said that what happened between the 2 brothers wasn't a murder at all.
This is not a murder case, never has been a murder case. It's a tragic accident, an accident of biblical proportions.
Homicide investigators weren't persuaded by Jim's version of the shooting. The bullet holes at the crime scene were grouped closely together, a possible indication that Jim had taken aim at his brother. But investigators needed to know the sequence of the shots and the timing of what took place. For that, all they had was the 911 call to police.
911 emergency. What's the problem?
But were any of the gunshots captured on the audio tape? To find out, investigators hired a forensic acoustician, Dr. Harry Haleen, to analyze the sound waves on the tape.
Okay, hold on, I have a couple units in red. Hold on. Artie. Oh, no! Somebody's shooting! Oh my God! Somebody's shooting! What's going on?
Dr. Haleen heard some popping and static sounds, but further tests were needed to see if they were .22 caliber gunshots.
Well, I would have been real surprised if it wasn't a .22, but nonetheless, we had to go ahead and do some other analyses to ensure that we knew what we were talking about.
Oh my God! Hello? Hello? There's shots.
Dr. Haleen's son, Kevin, analyzed the sounds with a spectrogram, which shows a graphical representation of everything on the tape. Screams, static, and other noises can mask the sound of gunfire. But gunshots have a distinct sound wave pattern, regardless of the weapon's make or size. Was to determine the time between each gunshot in order to recreate the crime exactly as it happened. Prosecutors wanted to recreate the murder of Artie Mitchell to determine whether it was an accident or murder. Laser tests identified the direction of each of the 7 shots. Next, the blood spatter evidence and the sequence of the shots recorded on the 911 audio tape all helped to piece together the event. For example, investigators knew Artie was standing when hit in the shoulder. The bullet hole through the wall corresponded perfectly with the height of his shoulder.
This was a unique case because of the nature of the gunshots and the ricochets and the tracing of the path of the bullets and trying to place the victim in certain spots.
So, we're going to the beach, we're going to sleeping.
The crime scene reconstruction revealed that Jim broke into the home and immediately fired the first shot down the hall, through the right side of Artie's bedroom door. The second shot went through that same door.
At that point,
The forensic analysis was invaluable in reconstructing the crime. With this information, Jim Mitchell was charged with murder. The hardest part for prosecutors would be explaining the shooting to a jury in a way they could understand. So the district attorney decided to try something never done before. He would ask the judge to allow the forensic animation into evidence.
I knew we were going to have a big fight on our hands because I think in, what, a 27-second video, I think it was, if that, it's basically summarized the whole case from the prosecution perspective. And obviously, they wouldn't want it in because I felt it was a very powerful piece of evidence. The actual video or animation was really nothing more than a moving diagram.
By today's standards, the animation looks crude, but at the time, it was state-of-the-art.
It was done with a rather flat-shaded algorithm for rendering. It was fairly unsophisticated. The human models were fairly disjointed. It was effective, showing placement of situations, where people were, how angles of trajectory were, and things like that, but it wasn't terribly pretty.
Jim Mitchell's defense attorney argued that the animation was inaccurate since it included subjective elements that no one would possibly know. The defense also challenged Dr. Halene's acoustic tests, arguing his conclusions were based on gunshot sound tests that were not conducted at the crime scene. Judge Richard Briner ultimately allowed the animation into evidence. It was the first time forensic animation was used in a murder case. As the trial against Jim Mitchell drew near, the prosecution struggled to understand the motive. Why did Jim Mitchell kill his brother? As self-proclaimed artists, protectors of free speech and cultural icons, the brothers were wealthy thanks to their multi-million-dollar pornography and strip club empire. And the brothers had always been close, even since childhood. Family members admitted that Artie's behavior had been a problem for some time. On the day of his death, Artie called his mother, and even she admitted that Artie was, in her words, out of control. Jim's girlfriend, Lisa Adams, told police that Artie called her numerous times in the days before his death, and no shots were fired. But when Artie looked out, he was hit with the fatal shot. The entire episode took less than a minute. The defense argued that the beer bottle found near Artie's body played a significant role in the case.
The defense argued that either the bottle appeared to be a gun, and in one instance, I believe the defense even suggested that Artie Mitchell at one point in time had a gun when he came down the hallway.
But no gun was found near Artie's body, only the beer bottle. In the end, the jury found Jim Mitchell guilty of voluntary manslaughter.
The manslaughter is something that, if it stands up on appeal, is something that he can accept.
I mean, it started out with the defense claiming it was an accident. Obviously, the jury concluded it was not an accident.
Mitchell was sentenced to 6 years in prison. After serving 3 years, he was released for good behavior. Police officers who worked on the case say the sentence was not nearly harsh enough.
For taking a life, I think that was a very, very mellow sentence.
He got away with murder, and now he's back in business.
Yet, without the crime scene reconstruction and animation, there may not have been a conviction for manslaughter.
Without that, we couldn't have pieced it together in a way to show the actual sequence of events. And once again, coming back to that issue, what was in the mind of the perpetrator?
The once young man with mischievous eyes, Artie is buried in the town of Lodi, far from San Francisco and the eyes of curiosity seekers. Jim Mitchell continues to run the O'Farrell Theater. According to the marquee, it is still a venture of the Mitchell brothers, but only in spirit.